My name is Minnie, and at 62 years old, I thought I knew what family meant. For 35 years, I believed that blood made you family, that unconditional love could overcome anything, and that the sacrifices I made for my son would always bind us together. I lived in the same Victorian house where 3 generations of my family had called home, where I raised David alone after losing my husband Robert. It was our sanctuary, our foundation, our everything. But have you ever had someone you love more than life itself look you straight in the eyes and tell you that you are not family? Before I share this story that changed everything, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. And if you have ever experienced heartbreak from the people closest to you, please hit that like button so I know I am not alone in this journey. Subscribe to hear more real stories like this one, because what happened next will show you just how powerful it can be when a mother finally decides to put herself first. The house on Maple Street had been in my family for 3 generations. My grandmother bought it in 1942, a beautiful Victorian with bay windows and a wraparound porch that had seen countless Sunday dinners, birthday parties, and quiet evenings. When my husband Robert died in a car accident 15 years ago, leaving me to raise 12-year-old David alone, this house became more than just our home. It became our lifeline. Those early years were brutal. I worked 2 jobs just to keep us afloat. During the day, I was a secretary at the local insurance office, answering phones and filing paperwork for 8 hours straight. At night, I cleaned office buildings downtown, mopping floors and emptying trash cans until my hands were raw and my back ached. I would get home around midnight, check on David's homework that he had left on the kitchen table, and collapse into bed only to wake up 5 hours later to start all over again. But David made it all worthwhile. He stepped up in ways that broke my heart and made me proud at the same time. He learned to do his own laundry, helped with grocery shopping, and even attempted to cook dinner on nights when I worked late. We had our traditions that kept us connected through those hard times. Every Saturday morning, no matter how tired I was, we made pancakes together. He would measure the flour while I mixed the batter, and we would talk about everything and nothing while the smell filled our small kitchen. Christmas was always special in our house. David and I would drive out to the tree farm every December, spending hours finding the perfect Douglas fir that would fit in our living room corner. We would decorate it together with ornaments that had been in the family for decades, each one telling a story. The angel on top belonged to my grandmother. The handmade snowflakes were from David's kindergarten class, and the wooden train set that circled the bottom had been Robert's childhood treasure. David was my little man of the house, as I used to call him. He would fix leaky faucets by watching YouTube videos, helped me paint the fence every spring, and never complained when our dinner was peanut butter sandwiches because money was tight that week. He used to tell me all the time, "Mom, you are my best friend. We are a team, right?" Those words carried me through the loneliest nights when I wondered if I was strong enough to do this alone. When David graduated high school with honors and received a full scholarship to Oregon State University, I knew every sacrifice had been worth it. He studied computer engineering, called home every Sunday, and came back for every holiday break with stories about his classes and new friends. After graduation, he landed a fantastic job at a tech company in Portland, and for the first time in years, I felt like we had both made it through the storm. I remember the day he got his first paycheck. He came straight to the house with a bottle of champagne and a bouquet of flowers, saying, "Mom, we did it. Everything you gave up all those late nights, it all paid off." We sat on the front porch that evening, watching the sunset and talking about his plans for the future. He wanted to buy a house eventually, maybe start a family, but he always assured me that I would be part of whatever came next. Looking back now, I think those were the happiest years of my life. David was successful, independent, but still my son, who called just to chat and showed up for Sunday dinner without being asked. I thought we had built something unbreakable together, a bond forged by shared struggles and unconditional love. I told myself I had done everything right, that the foundation we built would last forever. How wrong I was. Everything started to change when David met Jessica at work. She was a software project manager from California, blonde, and polished in a way that immediately made me feel underdressed and outdated. The first time David mentioned her, his voice had a different quality, softer somehow, like he was sharing a secret. He started calling less frequently, and when he did, our conversations felt rushed and distracted. "Sorry, Mom, I have to run. Jessica and I are meeting for dinner." became his standard goodbye. I tried to be happy for him, really, I did. After all, I had always wanted David to find someone special and build a life of his own. But there was something in his tone when he talked about her that made me uneasy, a deference that seemed unlike the confident young man I had raised. When David finally brought Jessica home for Thanksgiving dinner, I spent 3 days preparing. I cleaned the house from top to bottom, polished the good china that had belonged to my mother, and planned a menu that would showcase all of David's favorite dishes. I wanted to make a good impression to welcome this woman who clearly meant so much to my son. The moment Jessica walked through the front door, I could see her taking inventory of everything around her. Her eyes swept across the worn hardwood floors, the faded wallpaper in the hallway, and the family photos that covered every available surface. She smiled politely when David introduced us, but her handshake was brief, and her gaze kept wandering to the peeling paint on the window trim. During dinner, Jessica asked carefully worded questions that felt more like an interrogation than conversation. "This neighborhood seems quiet. Is it safe to walk around at night?" she wondered aloud while cutting her turkey into precise, small pieces. When I mentioned that I had lived here my entire life and never had any problems, she nodded with the kind of smile people give when they are being polite but not convinced. She spent most of the meal talking about her family's house in Newport Beach, describing the ocean view from her childhood bedroom and the infinity pool where she learned to swim. "My parents just redid the kitchen with Italian marble countertops and a wine cellar," she mentioned casually while glancing around our modest dining room. "David, you should see it sometime. The craftsmanship is just incredible." What bothered me most was not what Jessica said, but what David did not say. When she made little comments about the house being charming in a vintage way, or wondered if the neighborhood was up and coming, he just nodded along instead of defending the home where he had grown up. The David I knew would have told stories about learning to ride his bike on this street or building snow forts in the backyard. Instead, he seemed almost embarrassed by the memories that had shaped him. After dinner, I was clearing dishes when I overheard them talking quietly in the living room. Jessica was saying something about upgrading the living situation and making smart financial decisions for the future. David's voice was too low for me to make out his response, but I caught enough to understand they were discussing our family home like it was a problem to be solved. That night, after they left, I sat in the kitchen where David and I had shared so many conversations over the years. For the first time since Robert died, I felt truly alone in this house. Something fundamental had shifted, and I could not shake the feeling that the woman my son was falling in love with saw me and everything I represented as obstacles to their happiness together. David and Jessica got engaged 6 months later, and their wedding was everything I was not. The ceremony took place at an exclusive country club in Jessica's hometown, with 200 guests, a string quartet, and flowers that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. Jessica's parents paid for everything, insisting it was their pleasure, while making it clear that their daughter deserved nothing but the best. I felt like an outsider at my own son's wedding. Jessica's family and friends filled most of the guest list, while my side consisted of my sister Mary, 2 cousins, and a few neighbors who had watched David grow up. During the reception, I found myself sitting at a table with Jessica's great aunt, who spent the entire dinner explaining how wonderful it was that David had overcome his circumstances to become such a success. The biggest change came after Emma was born 2 years later. I had been so excited to become a grandmother, imagining all the ways I would spoil and love this little girl who carried on our family legacy. I bought a crib for my spare bedroom, stocked up on diapers and baby clothes, and cleared out space for toys in the living room. I could not wait to share with Emma all the traditions that had made David's childhood special. But Jessica had very different ideas about my role in Emma's life. From the beginning, she established rules that seemed designed to keep me at arm's length. I could not visit without calling first, and even then, the visits were scheduled around Emma's rigid nap and feeding schedule. I was not allowed to babysit overnight because, according to Jessica, my house did not meet current safety standards for infants. The most painful part was listening to Emma learn to talk. Jessica's parents were Grandma and Grandpa names that came naturally and were used constantly, but Emma was taught to call me Miss Minnie, a formal title that made me feel like a family friend rather than blood relative. When I gently suggested that she might call me Nana or Grammy, Jessica explained that they wanted to keep things simple and avoid confusion. David seemed to go along with whatever Jessica wanted, even when it meant canceling plans we had made or cutting short visits when Emma got fussy. "Jessica knows best when it comes to childcare," he would say whenever I questioned one of her decisions. "She has read all the books and wants to do everything right." I started to feel like I was being slowly erased from their lives. Birthday parties happened without me. School events were family-only affairs that apparently did not include grandmothers, and holidays became something I was invited to rather than expected at. The house that had once been full of family gatherings and spontaneous visits became a place where I waited for phone calls that came less and less frequently. Emma was growing up not knowing that the woman she called Miss Minnie was actually her grandmother, that this house was where her father had taken his first steps and learned to ride a bicycle. All the family history, all the love I had to give seemed irrelevant in the face of Jessica's determination to create a new family narrative that did not include meaningful space for me. When David lost his job at the tech company due to budget cuts, I thought it might bring us closer together. Surely this would be a time when family rallied around each other, when the bonds we had built over the years would prove their strength. Instead, it became the catalyst for a conversation that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my relationship with my son. Jessica was not handling the financial stress well. She had grown accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and the idea of scaling back their expensive apartment, private preschool for Emma, and regular weekend getaways seemed to send her into a panic. David was frantically applying for jobs, but the market was competitive and the process was taking longer than expected. That is when David came to see me on a Tuesday afternoon in March. I was so happy to see him that I did not immediately notice the folder of papers he carried or the serious expression on his face. I made coffee and offered to fix him lunch, just like old times, but this was not a social visit. "Mom, we need to talk about something important," he said, setting the folder on the kitchen table where we had shared so many meals over the years. "Jessica and I have been doing some financial planning, and we think it might be time for you to consider making some changes." He opened the folder to reveal brochures for assisted living facilities, all with names like Golden Years Manor and Sunset Gardens. Each pamphlet showed smiling elderly people playing card games and attending exercise classes in pristine, sterile environments that looked nothing like home. "These places offer so much more than you have here," David continued, his voice taking on the tone of someone delivering a sales pitch. 24-hour medical care, social activities, prepared meals. You would not have to worry about maintaining this big house anymore or living alone. It would be safer and more practical." I stared at the brochures, trying to process what he was suggesting. "David, I do not need assistance living. I am perfectly capable of taking care of myself and this house. This is my home where you grew up, where your father and I built our life together." His jaw tightened in a way that reminded me of his father when Robert was determined to win an argument. "Mom, be realistic. This house is too big for one person. The maintenance costs alone are eating up your savings. You are 62 years old and living by yourself in a neighborhood that is not getting any safer. It does not make sense financially or practically." Then came the real purpose of his visit. David explained that selling the house would solve multiple problems at once. The equity I had built up over 30 years would provide enough money for a nice assisted living apartment and leave plenty left over to help him and Jessica through their current financial difficulties. It was presented as a win-win situation, a logical solution that would benefit everyone involved. When I tried to explain that this house represented more than just financial assets, that it was the repository of our family's history and my connection to Robert and David's childhood, he dismissed those concerns as sentimentality. "Mom, those are just memories. Emma is not going to want some old house with outdated plumbing and electrical systems. She needs college funds and financial security, not attachment to buildings that will just become expensive to maintain." The conversation went on for over an hour, with David presenting practical arguments for why I should sell, and me trying to make him understand that some things matter more than money. But I could see in his eyes that he had already made up his mind. This was not a discussion, it was a notification of what he expected me to do. A month later, David came back with reinforcements. This time, he brought Jessica and Emma along with a real estate agent who had already prepared a market analysis of my property. The folder was thicker now, filled with more brochures, financial projections, and what looked like a timeline for making this transition happen. Emma played quietly in the living room while the adults talked occasionally, looking up at the family photos on the mantel with curiosity. I wondered what stories she had been told about this place, whether she knew that her daddy had once built blanket forts in that same corner where she was now arranging her dolls. Jessica took the lead this time, her voice gentle but firm as she outlined their concerns about my living situation. "Minnie, we love you and want what is best for you," she said, though her eyes never quite met mine. "David worries about you being alone here, especially after that break-in 3 blocks over last month. We just think you deserve to be somewhere with people around where you can make friends and have activities to keep you busy." The real estate agent, a woman named Patricia, who smiled too much and spoke too fast, spread papers across my dining room table like she was planning a military campaign. According to her analysis, my house was worth significantly more than I had realized. The neighborhood was becoming trendy with young professionals, and Victorian houses like mine were in high demand. "Mrs. Thompson," Patricia said, "you are sitting on a gold mine here. With the market the way it is right now, we could probably get you asking price within 2 weeks. Maybe more if we stage it properly and get multiple offers." David leaned forward, his voice taking on the persuasive tone I remembered from his high school debate team days. "Mom, think about it logically. You could pay cash for a beautiful apartment at Willowbrook Gardens, have money left over to travel or do whatever you want, and never have to worry about property taxes or maintenance again. Plus, you would be helping your family when we really need it." When I continued to resist pointing out that this house was Emma's inheritance and part of her family legacy, David's patience began to wear thin. "Emma does not need some rundown old house, Mom. She needs a college fund and parents who are not stressed about money all the time. You are being sentimental about things that do not matter to anyone but you." That was when Jessica spoke up with a comment that cut deeper than she probably intended. "Minnie Emma has never even slept over here. She does not have the same emotional attachment to this place that you do. Her home is with us, and her memories are being made there. This house is just a building to her." The truth of that statement hit me like a physical blow. Jessica was right. Emma did not know this house as home because she had been systematically kept away from it. She did not know the stories behind the family photos or understand that her grandfather's tools were still in the basement workshop. To her, I was just Miss Minnie, and this was just some old lady's house that she occasionally visited. But the moment that changed, everything came when I made one last desperate attempt to reach my son. "David, please try to understand. Your father and I bought this house when you were just an idea we hoped for someday. We painted the nursery together, and he installed those safety latches on all the cabinets before you even came home from the hospital. This is where you took your first steps, where we celebrated every birthday, where you did homework at this very table. How can you ask me to just walk away from all of that?" David looked at me with an expression I had never seen before, cold and distant in a way that made him seem like a stranger. Then, he said the words that would replay in my mind for months afterward. "Family. Mom, you need to understand something. Jessica, Emma, and our new baby that is coming, that is my family now. You are just someone from my past. This house, these memories, they are not relevant to my real life anymore." The silence that followed was deafening. Even Jessica looked uncomfortable with how harsh his words had been. Emma continued playing with her dolls, oblivious to the fact that her grandmother's heart was being shattered into pieces just a few feet away. David was not finished. "I am grateful for what you did raising me, I really am. But that does not make you part of my family now. Jessica is right when she says that Emma needs stability and security, not sentimental attachments to old buildings and outdated relationships." I sat there in complete silence, unable to process what I was hearing. This was the little boy I had rocked to sleep when he had nightmares. The teenager I had waited up for when he missed curfew, the young man I had cheered for at his college graduation, and he was telling me that I was not his family anymore. David gathered up the papers and stood to leave. "I am going to give you 2 weeks to think about this seriously, Mom. After that, I will have to consider other options." The way he said "other options" made it sound like a threat, though I could not imagine what power he thought he had over me. After they left, I sat alone in my living room surrounded by 35 years of memories, trying to understand how I had become a stranger in my own son's life. The photos on the mantel seemed to mock me with their images of happier times when David's love felt unshakable and unconditional. Now I realized that love had come with conditions I was never told about, and apparently I had failed to meet them. I did not cry for very long. Something unexpected happened in the silence after David's ultimatum. Instead of the crushing despair I expected to feel, a strange clarity began to settle over me. For the first time in 35 years, I was not worried about what was best for David or how my decisions might affect his happiness. I was free to think about what I wanted, what I deserved, and what I was going to do about it. The next morning, I called my friend Margaret, who had been practicing real estate law for 20 years. "Maggie, I need to sell my house, and I need to do it right. Can you come over this afternoon?" Margaret had known David since he was in diapers, so when I explained what had happened, her reaction was swift and fierce. "Minnie, that boy has lost his mind if he thinks he can bully you into giving up your home. But if you really want to sell, we are going to make sure you get every penny it is worth, and more." Over the next few days, Margaret helped me understand just how valuable my property had become. The Victorian house that Robert and I had bought for $45,000 in 1987 was now worth close to $800,000 thanks to the neighborhood's transformation and the historic charm that young families were seeking. I hired a professional cleaning service to deep clean every room, a staging company to arrange furniture in ways that would highlight the house's best features, and a photographer who specialized in real estate marketing. Watching strangers move through my home, adjusting lampshades and replacing my family photos with generic artwork, felt surreal. But with each step, I felt more determined to take control of my own destiny. The staging consultant, an energetic woman named Linda, was amazed by the house's original details. The crown molding, these hardwood floors, the original stained glass windows, this is exactly what buyers are looking for right now. We just need to help them see the potential without getting distracted by personal items. While the house was being prepared for market, I took care of other business. I met with an estate planning attorney to update my will, ensuring that David would inherit nothing from my assets. I opened new bank accounts that he did not know about and began researching senior communities in Arizona, where my sister Mary had been happily living for the past 5 years. I also spent time going through decades of accumulated belongings, deciding what deserved space in my new life. I kept one small box of truly important mementos: my wedding ring, a photo of Robert holding newborn David's first grade school picture, when he still looked at me like I hung the moon. Everything else, the baby clothes I had saved, the Father's Day gifts David had made in elementary school, the countless tokens of a life spent putting someone else first, went to charity or the trash. If I am not family, I told myself while packing, then these memories are meaningless anyway. The house went on the market on a Friday morning. By Monday afternoon, we had 3 offers, all above asking price. The winning bid came from a young couple with twin toddlers who reminded me of Robert and myself 35 years earlier. They walked through the house holding hands, pointing out where they would put the Christmas tree and talking about teaching their children to ride bikes on this quiet street. I felt peaceful, knowing the house would once again be filled with the laughter of children, even if they would not be my grandchildren. On Tuesday, David called with his usual casual tone, apparently assuming his 2-week ultimatum was still in effect. "Hey, Mom, just checking in. Have you had time to think about our conversation?" "Yes, David," I replied calmly. "I have thought about it quite a bit." "Great. So when can we meet with Patricia to get the process started?" "You will not be meeting with Patricia, David, but I appreciate your concern for my welfare." There was a long pause before he asked, "What do you mean?" "I mean that you made it very clear that I am not part of your family anymore, so my financial decisions are no longer any of your business." I hung up the phone and turned it off, enjoying the silence that followed. The closing was scheduled for the following Friday, but David showed up at my house that Tuesday afternoon with Jessica and Emma in tow. I watched from my bedroom window as he parked his SUV in the driveway, confident as always that he could charm or pressure his way into getting what he wanted. He walked up to the front door and inserted his key, the same key I had given him when he turned 16, and started driving. But the locks had been changed as part of the security upgrade the new owners requested, so his key did nothing but rattle uselessly in the mechanism. I watched him try the key several more times, his face growing more confused with each failed attempt. Finally, He knocked on the door, probably assuming I was having trouble hearing him. When the door opened, it was not me who greeted them, but James Morrison, the new owner, who had taken early possession to begin some renovations. "Can I help you?" James asked politely, looking at the stranger standing on his front porch with a woman and child. "There must be some mistake," David said, his voice rising with panic. "This is my mother's house. I have a key." "I am sorry, sir, but my wife and I bought this house. We closed yesterday afternoon. You might want to check with your mother about where she has moved." From my bedroom window, I could see Jessica grabbing David's arm, her face pale with realization. Emma was asking loudly why they could not go inside, why the man would not let them in. David pulled out his cell phone and dialed my number with shaking hands. I answered on the fourth ring. I was sitting in the departure gate at Portland International Airport waiting for my flight to Phoenix, where my sister Mary had helped me find a beautiful apartment in her senior community. "Mom, what is going on?" "There is some man at your house saying he owns it. Where are you?" "I am at the airport. David, my flight leaves in an hour." "What do you mean your flight leaves flight to where?" "Arizona. I have decided to start over somewhere where I can be appreciated for who I am, not what I can provide." There was complete silence on the other end of the line. In the background, I could hear Emma crying and Jessica's voice getting higher and more agitated as she realized what had happened. "Mom, wait. I think there has been a misunderstanding. We can work this out. You do not have to sell the house. We can figure something else out." "There has been no misunderstanding, David. You told me very clearly that I am not your family. You said that your real life does not include me. So I took your advice and started living my real life, which apparently does not include you either." "But what about the money? I thought we agreed that selling the house would help everyone." "We never agreed on anything, David. You presented an ultimatum and I made my choice. The house sold for much more than you estimated, by the way. $825,000 to be exact." I could hear Jessica grab the phone. "Minnie, please be reasonable. We have a baby coming and David is still looking for work. Surely, family helps family in times like these." "Jessica, you spent 3 years making it clear that I am not family. Emma calls your parents Grandma and Grandpa, but I am just Miss Minnie. You have never once invited me to a school event, a birthday party, or a family vacation. You have told me repeatedly that my house is not safe for Emma, that my neighborhood is not good enough, that my way of life does not meet your standards. So why would you think I owe you anything now? But think about Emma. She needs her grandmother. Emma has grandparents, your parents. She has never been allowed to think of me as her grandmother, so this will not change anything for her. Besides, according to your husband, children need financial security, not sentimental attachments to people from the past." David took the phone back. "Mom, I was upset when I said those things. I did not mean them the way they sounded." "David, you said exactly what you meant, and I heard you clearly. For the first time in 35 years, I actually listened to what you were telling me instead of hearing what I hoped you meant. So what happens now? Are you just going to disappear from our lives completely?" "I am going to go live my life, David. I have spent 35 years putting your needs first, sacrificing my own happiness for yours, accepting whatever scraps of attention you were willing to give me. I thought that was what good mothers did. Now I realize that I was enabling you to take me for granted and treat me poorly. We can visit you in Arizona. Emma would love to see you. Emma does not know me well enough to miss me, and that is your choice. You have made it clear over the past 3 years that my role in her life should be minimal. I am simply accepting the boundaries you established." There was desperation in his voice now. "Mom, please, do not do this. I know I made mistakes, but we are family. Family forgives each other." "You are absolutely right, David. Family does forgive each other, but forgiveness does not mean accepting continued disrespect or pretending that hurtful actions never happened. I forgive you because holding on to anger hurts me more than it hurts you. But forgiveness does not mean I have to keep putting myself in situations where you can hurt me again." The boarding announcement for my flight echoed through the terminal. It was time to go. "I have to board my plane now, David. I hope you find a job soon and that your new baby is healthy. I hope Jessica learns to appreciate what she has before she loses it. And I hope someday Emma asks you why her grandmother moved so far away and you tell her the truth about what happened here." "Mom, wait." I hung up the phone and turned it off. For the first time in months, I felt completely at peace. 3 months later, I was watering roses in the community garden of Desert Bloom Senior Living when David appeared on the sidewalk behind me. I had been expecting this visit ever since Margaret told me that Jessica had filed for divorce and was moving back to California with Emma. Apparently, David's unemployment and mounting financial pressures had proven too much for their marriage to survive. He looked terrible, thin and unshaven, wearing clothes that needed washing and shoes that had seen better days. The confident, successful man who had stood in my kitchen 6 months earlier demanding that I sell my house was gone, replaced by someone who looked lost and defeated. "Hello, David," I said without turning around, continuing to tend my flowers. "Mom," his voice cracked when he said it, "I have been looking for you for weeks. Margaret finally told me where you were living." "Margaret is a good friend. I asked her to give you my address when she thought you were ready to hear what I have to say. I made a terrible mistake, the biggest mistake of my life. I lost everything because I was stupid and selfish, and I did not appreciate what I had." I turned to face him, then, this broken man who was once my whole world. "What is it you think you lost, David?" "Everything. Jessica left me and took Emma back to California. I still have not found a job. I am living in a studio apartment and can barely afford groceries. But worst of all, I lost you. I lost the person who loved me no matter what, who always believed in me, who sacrificed everything to give me a good life. You did not lose me, David. You threw me away. There is a difference." He started to cry, then deep sobs that shook his whole body. "I know what I said was unforgivable. I know I hurt you in ways that can never be fixed. But please, Mom, please give me another chance. I will do anything to make this right." I sat down on the garden bench and patted the space beside me. After a moment, David sat down too, keeping careful distance between us. "David, do you know what I have learned since I moved here?" He shook his head. "I learned that I am worth more than being someone's backup plan. I learned that I deserve to be treated with respect and kindness, not just when people need something from me, but all the time. I learned that there are people in this world who value my company, who include me in their lives because they want me there, not because they feel obligated." I gestured toward the community center where I had just finished teaching a painting class to a group of women who had become dear friends. I learned that I am not too old to make new memories, to try new things, to be appreciated for who I am right now, instead of what I can do for other people. "I know you have a good life here, Mom. I can see it. But is there any room in it for me? Any chance that we could start over and do better this time?" I looked at this man who carried my genes and my husband's eyes, who had been the center of my universe for 35 years. I felt love for him, but it was different now. It was the kind of love that comes with boundaries, with self-respect, with the understanding that love should never require you to diminish yourself. "David, I will always love you. You are my son, and nothing can change that. But love is not enough anymore. Love without respect is just enabling. Love without boundaries is just codependency." What does that mean for us? It means that if you want a relationship with me, it will be on completely different terms than before. It means you will have to prove that you value me as a person, not just as someone who can solve your problems or provide free childcare or emotional labor. How do I do that? You start by taking responsibility for the choices you made. You acknowledge that the way you treated me was wrong, not just because you were stressed or because Jessica influenced you, but because you chose to prioritize other people's comfort over your mother's dignity. David nodded slowly. "I do take responsibility. I was wrong, completely wrong, and I am ashamed of how I acted." Taking responsibility is just the first step. The harder work is proving that you have actually changed, not just that you regret getting caught or facing consequences. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching other residents tend their small garden plots. An elderly man named Frank waved at me from across the garden, and I waved back. These people had welcomed me into their community, not because they needed anything from me, but because they enjoyed my company. "Mom, I want to earn your trust back. I want to be the son you deserved all along. Can you tell me how to do that?" "David, I cannot tell you how to respect me. Either you understand why respect is important, or you do not." Either you value having me in your life enough to treat me well, or you do not. I cannot teach you to love me properly. That has to come from you. But will you give me a chance to try? I turned to face him fully. David, I will give you the same chance you gave me when you told me I was not your family. I will listen to what you do, not what you say you will do. I will believe your actions, not your promises. And if you prove that you can treat me with respect and kindness consistently, then maybe we can build something new together. What if I fail? What if I mess up again? Then you will have learned that some mistakes cannot be undone and some relationships cannot be repaired. But that will be your choice, just like it was your choice to destroy what we had before. David stood up to leave, understanding that this conversation was over for now. I love you, Mom. I know I did not show it before, but I do love you. I love you too, David, but love is not enough anymore. Come back when you have something more to offer. 6 months have passed since that conversation in the garden. David sends me a card every month with updates about his life. He found a job, he is going to therapy, he is learning to cook for himself. He does not ask for anything, does not make demands, or try to rush the process of rebuilding trust. Emma is 9 years old now, and according to David, she has been asking questions about her grandmother who moved away. Jessica allows them to video call occasionally, and Emma is slowly learning that Miss Minnie is actually her daddy's mommy. It will take time for us to develop a real relationship, but for the first time, there are no artificial barriers being put in our way. As for me, I am 63 years old and I have never been happier. I take watercolor painting classes, volunteer at the local animal shelter, and have joined a book club where we discuss everything from romance novels to political biographies. I have friends who call just to chat, who invite me to dinner because they enjoy my company, who include me in their lives because they want to, not because they have to. Sometimes people ask me if I regret selling the house, if I miss the memories I left behind. The truth is, those memories were already gone the moment David told me I was not his family. You cannot hold on to the past when the people in it have decided you do not belong in their future. But here is what I have learned about family. It is not just about blood or shared history or unconditional sacrifice. Real family is people who choose you every day, who make space for you in their lives, who treat you with respect and kindness, not because they have to, but because they want to. Family is people who value your presence, not just your presence. Family is people who include you, not people who tolerate you. Family is people who see your worth, not people who take your love for granted. If someone tells you that you are not family, believe them. Then, go find your real family. They are out there waiting for you, and you deserve to be chosen, valued, and loved properly. Have you ever had someone you love tell you that you are not important to them? How did you find the strength to put yourself first? Share your story in the comments below, because your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to know their worth. Subscribe for more real stories about finding strength in the most difficult moments, because we all deserve to be valued and respected by the people we love. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, you are worthy of being chosen every single day.